Hey, what up, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. Z. Tonight, we're going to talk about a topic I'm pretty sure everybody in a relationship could relate to. This ain't your grandparents' era where you met somebody, got married, 50 years, and you lived happily ever after. So tonight, we're going to be talking about why is dating so hard in 2026. Now, before we get started, I want y'all to read the chat. I want you to type in whether you're single, married, or in a relationship, man. Let us know here, man. 6 footed TV back. What up? What up? Let me get us a few minutes. Let people come in. Yeah. Yup. So yeah, tonight we got a couple topics. A couple things I want to touch on tonight. I want to know, are the men to blame for the relationship issues, or is it the women? What would you say? I want y'all to tell me in the chat, like, let me know, like, what is going on today in the world. It seemed like the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, you seen more people sticking together. Nowadays it seems like everybody has their own agenda. Like, what is going on? What is going on in the world? Is it the men, the women? Is it the social media? Is it the dating apps? Or is it ourselves? You know, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. You know, like, hey, chat, do y'all think it's harder to find someone, or do you think it's harder to keep somebody? Because we all go through, the difficulties of trying to find the right person. They say the right person comes around once in a lifetime. I think that's bullshit. I think if you talk to enough people, you'll definitely find your opportunity within that. But the problem is, you're not making yourself available. A lot of times we go through relationship drama, issues, and we bring that luggage into the next relationship. Have you started your process of healing from your last relationship? Take that time, get yourself together. That's what this is about. You know, in relationships, we're going to, excuse me, we're going to go through loss. We're going to go through hard times, getting cheated on, getting lied to. Not everybody's like that, especially if you're putting the time in to actually learn who this person is. That's the most important part, you know. So, like, dating in 2026, nobody's really putting in the work, the time. Even myself, like, I'm single right now. I'm working on myself. I was in a relationship that turned sour. So I think for my next one, I'm definitely working on myself to improve and knowing what I want. I think a lot of people don't even know what they want, and a lot of times people put expectations on the next person, like, hey, they're supposed to do this, they got to do that because this is their role. Like, nah, man, you got to understand who you're talking to. You have to understand who your audience is. Not everybody can play quarterback. Some people are meant to block, some people are meant to play defense, some people are meant to run the ball. So if you have somebody that's supposed to be on the line blocking, I'm using an analogy, comparing this to football. If you have someone that's on the line that's supposed to be blocking, why are you talking to them like they're a quarterback? So the most important thing here is, like, understanding who that other person is, understanding who they are, and what their role actually is. You know, so as far as, like, the men or the women to blame, um, it's both. It's both. Like, let's start to take accountability and actually, work on ourselves. That's what life is about, right? Like, nobody's perfect. People make mistakes. People make decisions that they regret. That's actually how you learn, is by failing. So, if you failed in your last relationship or last few, that's okay. But just take that time to actually start to build and mold yourself and become the person that you were meant to be. You know? So, as far as men and women, who's to blame? Like I said, I think it's both, because men have issues and women have issues. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. You know, so if we both take accountability and start to work on ourselves, we're definitely going to start to improve, man. We're going to start to improve as people in this new era. Yep. Now, I have to ask a question here. Do y'all think, like, which era would you have wanted to date in? Like, if you can go back in time, you got to choose. Would you rather date in the 80s? Would you rather date in the 90s? Or would you rather date in the 2000 eras? Because, and the reason why I say this, it seems like so many people. I actually met I was at a restaurant, chilling at the bar, having a drink, and eating my food, and a beautiful couple came in, man. Probably in their like 70s. You know what I'm saying? And we started talking, and they started telling me how, they've been married 50 years. I'm like, wow, 50 years. Like, I had to ask them, like, really, what did it take? Like, did y'all ever get sick of each other? Like, I think the one thing for them that really clicked for me was the consistency. And like I said, like, nobody's perfect. Like, you're going to run through relationship drama and issues. It's just that people are incompatible, and they're not willing to grind it out together. And I think that's a major problem, aside from your audience and knowing who you're actually dealing with. I think the next issue is the consistency. People don't want to stick together. There's easier routes out there. So, I think these are the two things right here that's causing the challenges in the relationships in this era of the 2000s. So it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, the times that we growing up in, we have all these different challenges, being in the 2000s, from, it seems like everybody's out to get somebody. Everybody's looking for a come up off of another person. If you turn on social media, all you hear about is women that all you hear about is women, and it's like, what can the man do for me? What can he buy for me? And if you turn on the men, it seems like, they only want a woman that's shaking her ass. Like you, that's not what you really want. You don't want no easy fish that can go around and sleep with everybody. That's not what you want. So I think, like I said, man, it's going to take a lot to really understand and really fix ourselves, because we got to actually put ourselves as the problem. Because if you're not learning and you're not improving as a person, you're failing your own self. Forget the relationship, you're failing yourself. And look at the younger generation that's coming up. Can you imagine what dating is going to be by the year 2050, 2060? Even in the year 3000s, what's that going to be like? Are people going to be dating robots? Is it going to be AI? It's something that needs to be fixed now. So, that dating era, these are crazy times right now. Are people, I know for a fact, it's like, I was actually scrolling through social media, and they were talking about, should the man take care of all the bills? You know, you know, that's not a one word answer, you know. Of course, it's in our nature, right? It's in our role as a man to provide and protect, you know, that key word provide. But you're not going to want to provide for something for someone who's not at least giving you something back in return. I mean, why would you? Like, you're not a hoe, you know? You're not a hoe and they're not the pimp. This is supposed to be a compatible relationship. So, you know, it takes both parties. Like both parties have to really come together and have something together. So that's the major thing right there, you know. So as far as me, like what era I would date in, like I don't know. It seemed like in the '90s people had it together. I mean, do y'all remember? You know, I'm in my 30s, my mid 30s. You know, but I can go back. Like I remember the era of being in school. You know, you like a girl, and you write out a little letter. You know, and fold it up. You know what I mean? Do you like me? Yes or no? Like those were good times. Like people actually spent the time to come up and talk to you, get to know who you are. Um, Now with all this technology, it's like, you know, I can actually swipe left or swipe right if I want to talk to you. Like I think social media and the dating apps did take a little bit away from, you know, that physical aspect of actually meeting someone. You know, not to say that's ruined society, but it did take away that physical, you know, action of actually getting to know someone and really seeing if you like them and having a conversation with them. You know, that's what I do miss. So I would probably take the '90s, you know, because it was beautiful back then, you know, to get to know somebody and talk to them. You know, that those were great times there. And not that we don't have great times now in the 2000 era. It's just it's not the same, man. It's not the same. It's not the same. Yeah. Now, do y'all think that men fear commitment? I want y'all to know. I want to ask y'all, do y'all think men fear commitment? Type that down in the chat. If it's a yes, type that if it's a no. I just want to know y'all thoughts and what y'all think. Let us know. Let me put that down in the chat too. Yeah, we're gonna type that down in the chat, you know, trying to get y'all thoughts. Do y'all think men fear commitment? You know? Cause I would say some men do, you know, even from just playing sports, you can really see who's committed to it and you can really see who's just there because, you know, that maybe their parents made them, you know. So I think this is a case by case basis. But yeah, there's some men out there that fear commitment. They might act like they want something, act like it's real, and then they ghost you. That's another thing too, the ghosting. You know, so for women out there, there are men that's their game. That's what they run, you know. They're going to lie to you about commitment. Oh yeah, I want to be in a relationship. I want that. And as soon as they get what they want, now they beat it. Michael Jackson. So you definitely need to watch yourself. Be careful. Be cautious with people like that, because people like that will take advantage of you, and that's their MO. That's their game, you know. So I'm speaking to you women right now because I am a man and I know how the game goes when it comes to men. So, all I'm saying is just be careful out there, get to know that person. Don't just, hook up with somebody so fast because you know, they look good or they flash a little bit of money, and you think that's sexy. It's not. It's really not. You know, and I'm telling you from a man's aspect, I have a daughter as well, you know, and these are things that you need to be aware of as a woman. Because yes, men do run game, and yes, some men act like they are committed, but they're not. So just make sure that that man is, you know, in at least being committed to you, and committed to the things that he say he's going to do. That's the most important thing. Ladies, don't always pay attention to what a man says. Watch what he does. Yep. You know, and now I want to talk to the men. I want to know, do y'all think, do you believe that women have realistic expectations in men in 2026? Is another thing. And this is why I'm having this live stream. I see a lot, and again, it's coming from social media. I mean, everybody watches social media. I don't care who you are. Oh, I don't watch that. You know, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Everybody's scrolling on their phone. Everybody's on the computer. Got to check this. You know, but we do see a lot of women that, oh, I gotta have this man. He got to be 7 foot tall, and he's got to make $1 billion a year. And you know, is that realistic? You know, when you go to work, you know, do you have men that make $1 billion at your job? Are you working with them? Do you have men that are making millions at your job? Are you working with them? And if you are, you know, then why aren't you dating them? You know? So I think the expectations just need to be a little bit clearer. And I'm not saying this is every woman. I don't want to get bashed by you women. Um, but the expectations need to be a little bit more realistic. Like, you know, what were we doing before we had all this technology? I mean, even bring it back to the caveman era, right? As long as a man could hunt, fish, you know, he could feed his family. You know, a man doesn't have to be making billions of dollars a year. Yes, you do want someone who can consistently fund the lifestyle for you guys together and also the family. But to actually say, oh, I need $1 million guy and he's got to be 7 foot tall, that's crazy. That's nonsense. You know, we can't all have our cake and eat it too. You know how that goes. You know how the saying goes. So um, for all that unrealistic expectations out there, like, come on, man, that's not real. So let's try to get ourselves together. Let's yeah, you know. So when it comes to who's to blame, like I said, I think it's both of us. Um, do you think it's harder to find someone? Do you think it's harder to find someone or harder to keep them? I think it's harder to find someone, because you do have to go through a pedigree of finding them. And once you do find them, now you need to get to know who they are. So I think that's harder because the aspect of once you're in a relationship, you can actually, I believe it's easier to keep them. Hey, I got them. That we know what each other, we know what each other expects and what they like. So now we can actually start to engage and start to have a little bit of fun as far as that aspect. So me personally, I think it's a little bit harder to actually find the right person. But y'all let me know, man. Y'all let me know in the chat. What do y'all think? Is it harder to find someone, or is it harder to keep them? Man, let me know in the chat. And I definitely thank y'all, man, for every live stream that comes in. I thank y'all for rocking with 6 Foot of TV. mean, y'all been great, man. It's been a great vibe. It's been good. It's been good, you know. But yeah, we're gonna be doing plenty more. Um, I got a lot bigger expectations for the end of this year. Y'all keep rocking with me. 6 footed TV in the building. Man, we gone.